Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. And especially thank you to Kitty, my co host here. And as you see, Atheist Jr is not here. I don't know where he is. I have not heard from him. So I don't know if he's running a little bit late or if he's having tech issues. Tech issues would certainly make sense. I myself have a huge thunderstorm just outside, and I may end up with some tech issues even more serious than the ones we had last week where I kept popping out. I don't know. We'll see. But Kitty, thank you for being here.
Of course. If you ever, text me and you're like, hey, can you show up if I'm available, that I'll be there. Like I enjoy our little hangouts and getting to talk to people and socialize because I don't socialize much outside of like my immediate like family unit group. Like I don't go out and do stuff. So it's nice to have people to chat with.
Yep, it is. It is. And I'm the same way. I don't, especially now with my foot in this cast. I've been out of the house 4 times in the last 3 weeks, and twice was to go to the doctor, and twice I went to a movie. I went and saw Wakanda Forever, and we went and saw The Menu.
Oh, okay. See, I can count on one hand the number of movies I've been to in like the last 5 years. I used to go to the movies all the time, but honestly, I don't really go out much. And with my partner still recovering, I have to be the one to do the driving. So drive him to work, drive him to physical therapy, and I have to drive, our son to his therapies. So it's been a lot. So I've just been really tired. Honestly, the last couple of days I've basically had a lot of pain. So I've been curled up here in my chair,
I'm sorry.
playing Switch because my partner got me an early birthday gift, the new Pokemon game for the Switch. So I have been playing through Pokemon Violet, and that's actually what I was doing while I was waiting for the time to come around. And so I've got 2 monitors. So I've got the stream over here, and then like my computer's here, and the Switch is here. But yeah, no. So that's what I've been doing the last couple of days.
Cool. Johnny asks, how's the foot doing? I saw my doctor today, and I got a new cast today, which is nice because it means I got to have my foot out of a cast for about 30 minutes.
Casts are awful.
Yeah.
So bad.
I had all my stitches out today. Now, I actually had 5 surgeries on that foot. I had a bunion repair, I had repair of 3 hammer toes, and I had a bunionette repair. The bunionette I have had since my 20s. I've always known about, or actually probably even my teens. It's why I've always needed extra wide shoes. And I did have a surgeon that said he could fix that for me when I was in my early 20s, but the way he described what he could do, I wasn't sure that it was such a good idea. And I'm kind of glad I didn't do it then, because I think the surgical techniques have improved a lot since then. But what I really didn't know until, I've known for a long time that I had a bunion, and I mentioned it to my doctor at my checkup a year ago, and told her I needed a referral to a podiatrist, and it slipped her mind because some other things happened. Although she says she thought she gave it to me, but for whatever reason, I didn't have the name and nobody called me. So I thought, everything I read online about bunions told me if it doesn't hurt, don't worry about it. And so I was thinking, it's not hurting, so I might as well just leave it be. But when I finally saw the podiatrist, no, I should not have left that be, because she said what happened is because my big toe was not functioning correctly, the next 3 toes were trying to grip the ground when I walk, and that's why they all became hammer toes. So instead of needing 2 surgeries, I needed 5 surgeries, and so all of my toes had to be fixed. Sandy asked, did I get a walking boot? No, I am in a cast, not a boot. I cannot put any weight on it whatsoever. So I have a scooter. And that's the primary reason I don't go out much, because it is not easy to maneuver around in this scooter. Anytime I go into a small place, I have to kind of jump the scooter around to get it turned around again. And I do not have the balance at my age to stand on one foot and balance holding that cast in the air. I can do it for, for 5, maybe 10 seconds, but no more than that. So I can't hop. Of course, I couldn't hop even before the surgery because of my back issues. And so if I need to move just a little bit, and I can, for whatever reason, I don't have the scooter, like it's been moved outside so I can get to the car, I have to hold on to something and shift my foot back and forth to kind of move sideways.
We went through that stage with my partner, like at the very beginning while we were waiting on the knee scooter to be delivered, because they mailed it to the house. He had a wheelchair. Like, so when he went home from the hospital with the surgery, he got a brand new wheelchair, and it's workers' comp. They paid for it, which was nice because I have a wheelchair, but it is very old. It was secondhand when I got it, and it's kind of rusted. So like, this is kind of an upgrade for me. So when we do go to like in the spring, when we go to like the zoo or like a theme park or something, I will be able to, reap the benefits. So small silver lining for me anyway, but not how I would have liked to have replaced the wheelchair. And then he got the knee scooter, and he had a boot, like a walking boot type thing,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't
Mm-hmm.
allowed to weight bear. In fact, it was not until a couple weeks ago that he was able to actually start weight bearing.
Mm-hmm.
And now they have him walking without the boot with his shoes, but he's using a crutch for extra stability, because the crutch, not 2 crutches, just 1. So it allows him to basically balance a little bit better, because he actually has 5 screws crisscrossing in his foot to keep it all together after the injury. So now he's not using the boot anymore, and he's just walking on it, but he does struggle a bit, especially any distances. So I still have the knee scooter in the trunk just in case if we go to the grocery store or something and he doesn't feel up to walking. They're like, walk as much as you can, but don't push it. So and he's been doing physical therapy 3 times a week to help. So like, slow and steady progress. He's getting there, and hopefully they'll say he can start driving again once he sees the doctor the 12th. I think it's the 12th of December is the next time he sees the surgeon. I mean, he probably could drive now since he doesn't have the boot anymore, but since it's his right foot, and that's like your main driving foot, we're like, you know what, let's just play it safe.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm not really sure about, is they told me not to drive for 24 hours after my surgery, but that was because of the anesthesia. They did not say anything about whether or not I can drive with this cast on my foot, which this one is on my left foot. So I was under the impression that I could drive, but on the other hand, I'm not sure it's safe. With the lack of mobility that I have at this point, I'm really not sure it's safe.
Well, if you
So
drive an automatic, it should. I mean, it's your right foot that's doing things. If you can keep your left foot back,
I know I can. I know I physically can. The question is,
should you?
Right? Exactly. Hello, Atheist Jr.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Hope it's okay if I don't have headphones on. I can grab them if.
Oh no,
or anything.
Yeah, you're fine as long as we're not echoing. I sometimes don't wear them if there's only one guest, but I've generally found that occasionally there's an echo if I have 2 or more, so I always wear them if there's 2 or more. Let's see. Sandy asked, do they say when you get a walking boot? And the answer is yes. On the 19th of December, I get a walking boot.
Hey, my birthday.
That's your birthday? That's my anniversary.
Oh, that's adorable. If I get remarried, it's going to be on Halloween because I mean, have you met me? But no, December 19th is my birthday. I'm getting old.
That's my 40th anniversary.
Oh, well, I will wish you a happy anniversary that day.
I always heard, is it hard when you're like younger having a birthday that's close to Christmas? That
Oh, it is. Because you get birthmas presents.
Right.
Like,
Mhm.
happy birthmas.
I guess when you get older, it doesn't really matter anymore. But yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really care because I didn't want for anything. I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't always have money. Like, sometimes things were really tight. Like, my senior year in high school, I was going to school and working 3 jobs because my dad had been injured. He was primary breadwinner. My mom had been disabled since I was in 1st grade. So, I mean, you do what you got to do. I was probably pressing those labor laws because, 17, after I was 18, it was fine. But at 17, go to school. And I only had half days because I only had 1 class left. I had finished everything else earlier. And so I would go to school, and then Monday through Thursday afternoons, I'd work afternoon to evening at a Walgreens. And then Saturday and Sunday morning, I had to be at a restaurant down by the harbor for their like breakfast and brunch. And then at 1 o'clock, I went to the Speedway where there was a like go-kart track arcade, and I worked there from basically 1 until midnight on Saturday and Sunday. So like it was a lot. it was a lot.
You had free periods for your high school?
Basically, technically I didn't,
Okay.
but the only credit I was requiring to graduate was an English class. So 1 class out of a 7-class schedule. And then for my second, then the next class after that was ROTC, because that's what I did in high school. And then I was a teacher's aide for the rest of the day, but I was a teacher's aide to my teacher for ROTC, and we were cool. So it was like basically I would be there for the first 2 class periods of the day. And if he didn't have anything to do for me, I was free to go. And my work didn't really start, like work started at 2 o'clock. So it gave me time to like do stuff between when I got done at like noon for school and get a little bit done before going to Walgreens to work, like basically 2 to 10.
Yeah, I did get a haircut recently because my bangs, it was like the guy in one of my viewers said that it was like the guy in the Misfits who has the bangs that come all the way down. That's how my bangs were. They were completely covering my eyes, and it was driving
Oh
me
goodness.
insane. So yeah, I'm rocking a different style.
Johnny says that a cashier entered his birthday as Veterans Day 1999. He's keeping up. One of my grandkids was born on Veterans Day, and another of my grandkids was born on the 4th of July. I've only got 5 grandkids.
Very patriotic.
Yes, they are.
My son was born April 28th. So like right, at the end, and my niece was born April 4th. Yes. So their birthdays are the same month, and they're 4 years apart.
Isn't that the name of like an Oliver Stone movie, Born on the 4th of July?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sounds about right. Like I didn't do any, like my hair just kind of like lays like flat, or it gets like crimpy if like I go to sleep with slightly wet hair, because normally before I go to bed I will let my hair air dry, and then I'll just use, I have this iron, well it's not an iron, it's more like a blow dryer, but it's a brush, and I'll use it to just kind of like get everything nice and straightened out, and so that it curls under, because like I have a haircut where it'll curl under nicely. But I didn't bother because I didn't realize I was going to be on a stream until, the thing. And I don't wash my hair every day because it's not really good for your hair to wash it every day. So I'm just working with my, limp hair.
So, Atheist Jr, how did you get into all the research that you've done into Kent Hovind?
Well, I had started off making some videos that were just responses to his some random clips of his, because I love videos like that, where people will show some of Kent's videos and then they give like commentary on them. Like Thunderfoot had done some videos like that, and R and Raw, and some channels that are now deleted because they got copyright struck, even though Kent Hovind says that, oh, I don't copyright any of my material, and I really enjoyed those videos. So I started making them just for my friends on Facebook and uploading them. And then somebody suggested I upload them to YouTube. And then I started doing those. And eventually, I got some viewership with that. And I started following his channel more closely. And that's when Apologia reached out to me. It was when I had less than 1,000 subs. And I was a real small channel. I still consider myself a pretty small channel, but at that time, it was a lot smaller. And he took a chance on me. He thought I was somebody. He says that he's a very good judge of talent. That's what he told me after the video came out, and we saw how good it was doing. That he's a good judge of talent because he's done that a lot, where he's had people come on his show and he animates them, and then they get a big boost to their channel. And that's exactly what happened to me. Is my subs tripled after the
that
video
happened to me with Vice Rhino.
Yeah, so it's always good when you can do a collab with a bigger channel like that. What was your original question? Just like, how did I get started?
I just asked how you got started in this particular topic.
Yeah,
how that came to be your niche.
Pretty much that. And then once he asked me to help him work on that video is when I really started taking it a little bit more seriously. Although I had already been following Kent for the past year or so, and that's what that first video was about, was the previous year of all of his legal events, so to speak.
Peyton Dooley says, I'm thinking about doing a day trip to Dinosaur Adventureland. I live about an hour and a half away. Peyton, I live about 4 hours away, and I've been thinking of the same thing as well, but I would never go there alone. So if you want some company, we could make a plan for doing this. And I might be able to talk Godless Engineer into coming with us as well. And
John would go. He would totally go.
Yeah. And I think it was Johnny. There was someone else. No, I think it was, I can't think of his name now. There was another guest that I had on not all that long ago that said that he'd be interested as well. And he doesn't live all that far away either. So that could be kind of a interesting thing to do. And Bree says, I would not be safe in Dinosaur Adventureland. And Bree is absolutely right. Bree would not be safe. And which reminds me of a joke that I thought of. I was watching somebody, I don't remember who it was. And I said, the quintessential question that's considered unanswerable is, when are you going to stop beating your wife? But I feel like if anyone asked Kent Hovind that, his response would be, which one?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not wrong. Definitely not wrong. But oh man.
Well, personally, I think I don't think Kent is somebody who I think he's good at flying under the radar when it comes to this type of thing. So I don't think that I don't think that he has abused his other wives physically. I think he lost his temper in this one case, but I think he's more of the type who prefers the subtle emotional abuse that's done over a long time that you can't really, that you're not going to go to the police over, but that makes it very unpleasant for the partner to be in that relationship. You know what I mean? I think that's the type of abuse he prefers, which is a lot more common, I think, unfortunately, and a lot of people put up with, because, it's not always physical. Not all abuse is physical abuse.
Absolutely. I mean, monetary abuse is a big one, especially in that, trad wife, like tradcon type thing where the woman is meant to stay at home. So she won't have her own money. She's meant to stay at home, raise the kids. So she'll have no career, like possibly no credit in her name, even children. So there's that fear of ever leaving because you can't provide, trying to enter the job market, and provide for kids. Like it's a terrifying prospect, and that can absolutely chain someone to their abuser.
Yeah, one of the more annoying things that he keeps repeating is that his third wife, Cindy, that it was 9 months, or he keeps changing it now. I've heard him say 11 months. It was 9 months until she actually, went public with the abuse allegations and left DAL. And the implication being, if I was such a threat to her, she would have left sooner. But it's like, people can't just leave immediately when they're married to somebody and their finances are entangled, and they also love that person still. And it's a really tired argument that's used, in cases of sexual assault. Well, oh, this person didn't report right away or not at all, so that means it probably didn't happen, or it casts doubt on the validity of what they're saying just because they didn't report, when a lot of times, that happens because, first off, if it's a woman, they're usually going to be reporting to a male police officer, which is uncomfortable in its own right. And they also have to basically relive what happened if they're talking about it. And among other things, it can be very invasive. And a lot of people just want to move past that trauma and move on with their lives. I mean, I think that people should report. I understand that obviously it's difficult, but that's a fallacious argument when people say that. And it's usually people like Kent, people who are on Fox News. I've seen clips of people going on Fox News and giving this type of argument. It's just victim blaming, basically.
I can speak to this personally as a survivor of both domestic violence and sexual assault. Before I was sexually assaulted for the first time, I had a friend that did try to report it. And after seeing what she went through with them, well, what were you wearing? Had you had anything to drink?
Right.
How many sexual partners have you had? None of it being relevant whatsoever. Like, I didn't report mine when I was in high school. Like, nope. I was not going to subject myself to that. I mean, there was also a lot of like denial about it, like that
Yes.
I went through as well, where it was like pretending like it happened to somebody else, kind of like at the time, because what people don't realize is there's more than just fight or flight. There's also freeze, and you can completely like lock up where you're basically like, is this happening? And it's like your mind could just completely vacate your body, like as like this thing is happening to you. And when it did, like I went and, like, not to be graphic or anything, but there was, some blood on my bed sheets. I put them in the wash immediately. I told my mom I'd gotten my period. I went and scalding hot water shower immediately, so they wouldn't, like, I just scrubbed my body raw afterwards. And then I actually went to prom with the guy because I was trying so desperately hard to make things not what they were. And it took me a long time to like come to terms with what had happened. And as far as the leaving, I am a disabled person. And so I had no money of my own. Like the guy that assaulted me is not the person that I married. The person that I married, did also assault me, but that's a whole other thing. Like, he was of the mindset that it's not rape if it's your wife, very conservative Catholic, douchebag. But, my entire existence required him. Like, I had no money or way to make money on my own. And, for a long time, like, at first, like, it starts off slow and it's kind of insidious, and you're kind of like the frog in the pot of water, and when you realize it's boiling, like, it's entirely possible that your mindset is, well, I can't do any better, or I'm fortunate to have what I do have, and it'll just get worse if I try to leave. And the whole thing of, well, no one's going to take care of you like I do, no one's going to put up with you, you don't deserve any better than this. And it really fucks with your head. It is very insidious. And like, as someone that really struggled to leave, even though I was incredibly unhappy, I was 84 pounds when I finally did leave, because he would withhold food and I had no money, so I couldn't get any of my own. He would take my medications away from me and watch me go through withdrawal. Like, it was barbaric what I was going through, but I was terrified to leave because it's the devil, and it's how am I going to provide for myself? I need my health insurance, and it's tied to my marriage to this person. And so, I mean, I struggled for a long time, and I finally I did get up the courage to leave, and it was honestly the hardest decision of my life. Not that I want to still be with that person, but the fact is it was fucking terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. And I mean, he made sure to make sure that I suffered even after I left, and dragging out the divorce for over 2 years. And then, I was in a new relationship and pregnant with my child. The judge said, you are not allowed to touch the insurance, because that was something I was concerned about. Until the divorce goes through, you cannot do anything to cancel the insurance. He canceled it anyway. He almost actually went and had a bench warrant put out for him. So it was the 11th hour that he got it reinstated. So during a chunk of my pregnancy, I had no prenatal care, even though it was a high risk pregnancy, because I had no health insurance and I had no money to, take care of any of this. And, my partner now, the father of my child, he got laid off from work the same week we found out I was pregnant. So it was just a lot of bad shit happening all at once. And I was, just under 2 years outside of getting out of this abusive relationship. So it was a lot of turmoil. It was a lot of stress, and my heart goes out to anyone trying to leave, because it is not as easy as, well, if it's so bad, just leave. There are so many complicating factors. There are so many reasons why it's so hard.
Another factor is leaving is the most dangerous time for a woman, because the man will often panic. And that's, when a woman is killed by her partner, that's usually when it is. It's because she tried to leave.
Actually, I think my ex kind of got wind that I was about to leave. And I was on my computer at home with him. And I had affirmed the transness of his younger sibling, because they came out to me as trans. I was like, hey, I'll give you makeup tips. We can go dress shopping. We'll have fun, and that very much upset him. And I was on a Skype call with my current partner while, playing World of Warcraft. And he came in and spent an hour and a half just going, just tearing me apart, just saying horrendous things. And then he tripped the breaker to kill power to the room I was in. And I went and I turned it back on, and he went and tripped it again. So I texted Michael, which is my partner, and I explained what happened. He was like, I have a bad feeling. Call your parents, have them come get you now. And I was like, no, it's fine. He's like, no, now. And I was like, okay. So I called my parents. I was like, I need you to come get me. So it was about a half an hour drive. I grabbed the few things that were really important to me, because it's clothes can be replaced. It was things that had sentimental value to me. I grabbed. And my mom said that, when they got there, the blinds were open, and she sees him just sitting there with this glassy-eyed stare, just she was it looked like he was fucking demonically possessed, just sitting there stewing. And they knocked on the door. It's hey, are you gonna let us in? And they helped me pack up my things to go. And I honestly don't know what would have happened that night had I not left when I did. But he had to do a power play even then. The computer that I had, he didn't buy for me. It was actually a gift secondhand when my other friend, when one of my friends upgraded their computer.
I need to open this up.
And he was like, you're not taking that computer. And my dad's like, it's hers. You didn't pay for it. Well, I paid for the power supply. So you're going to have to rip the power supply out and leave it here before you go. My dad's like, I'll cut you a check. Get the fuck out of my way.
Was this a desktop computer?
Yeah, a desktop.
Oh, okay. So the power supply in the back of the PC. He paid for
yeah,
that.
basically. He paid for it because that was all the PC needed, was a new power supply. And he paid for that. And he was demanding it be ripped out just so that I couldn't use it. Not that he needed it, just so that I couldn't have it, And my dad's like, I'll write you a check. Just get the fuck out of my way. And that was the last time, I went back to the house, obviously, to get my things. But while he was at work, and I had at least 2 men with me because I did not feel safe going back there alone. And so I had Michael and one of my other friends there just, as witness and, in case, like, because I'm small, and I was especially small then. Like I weigh, well, not double, but I do weigh quite a bit more now than I did then. I was, like I said, I was like 85 pounds soaking wet, at the time, and very frail. And so I had backup when I went back there to get my things. But it was bad. Even to this day, I still have like fucking PTSD. Like there have been times I have thought, even though I know he's not in this state anymore, that he moved to another state, like where I thought I saw him from behind at a Walmart, and I just kind of crumple and like will hide behind like clothing racks because it was a very, very, very challenging time. And it just really annoys me whenever someone says, oh, if it's bad, just leave, because it is not as easy as people try to make it out to be, because things aren't so cut and dry,
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I found like one thing that helped me to heal was to be more like open and honest, because it is something that is not regularly talked about. And not every person who's been through the things that I have can, like they don't have, I don't want to say they don't have the strength, because that's not it, but they don't have, a willingness or even a desire to share these things. And so it goes untalked about or just in hushed whispers. So I figure being open and honest and direct about it, and, giving details, but not getting into the gory graphic, because nobody wants to hear about that, just leaving it at like the broad strokes of the things, because it does need to be talked about more. That financial abuse, like I still have issues with money, where talking about money or things like that, it is triggering for me, because withholding money from me was one way, because again, that was my only source of, any independence or finance, whatever, it came through him. I still have issues with food. Like if I get stressed out, like I can't eat. I don't feel hunger pain anymore. Like I have to remember to eat, or else I won't eat, because my body just said, we're just not going to do this anymore. We're not going to waste energy on trying to make you feel hungry, because no matter what, you're not going to be able to eat because there's no food. So, yeah, I found like just talking about these things helps me, and I know it's not the same for everybody, but I want to use my voice to talk about things for those that it is not healing for them to talk about these things,
Getting back to Kent Hovind, one thing that I was so extremely disappointed with was Matt Powell moving down there. Because the first time I did a review of or a response to Kent Hovind, one of the things I said is, the guy is what, 75 years old? It's 70. Yeah. It's about time for him to retire and spend some time with his grandkids. So much of what he has to say is outdated. And as one of the people in the side chat pointed out, he's been saying the same things for the last 4 decades. It's time to move on. And so I was so disappointed when Matt came to join him, and he's just turning Matt into another one of himself.
I think Matt Powell is also making him worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Kent was always saying the same things, but Matt came with this perspective about, there's people who say there's 72 genders, and let's now start focusing on trans people and all the LGBT issues. And he wasn't really doing that before. And Matt Powell has sort of turned him on to that. I mean, he's always been homophobic, but now it really seems like he's influenced him in that way. And I'm sure Kent's made Matt Powell worse, although it's hard to tell.
Matt Powell was abusive even before he came to see Kent Hovind.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid that Kent's anger issues are going to reflect in Matt. And I really fear for Matt's wife and child.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to know what exactly is going on down there.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to imagine at some point there's going to be some sort of drama between them. And it seems like Matt routinely leaves DAL to go preach in other places. I don't know if there's a reason for that or if not, but you know, I was one of the people who basically said, I don't like Matt Powell that much, but I basically warned him, don't move down there and don't tie your name
Oh,
to
really?
Kent Hovind. Yeah. In the Apologia video, the first one, I basically said that, and some commenters said I was too nice in the things I said about Matt Powell, which I can understand. But we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
If there's problems now that they're hiding it pretty well, but we'll see.
Well, one of the things that I'm concerned about is everything that you have turned up, everything that you've dug up, 90% of it is all public record.
Right.
The few things that you have that are not public record are things that Cindy has told you personally. Correct?
Pretty much.
What we can find in the public record is usually the tip of the iceberg. And if that is, in fact, the tip of the iceberg, I really worry about what else is down there.
Right. Well, Kent has a habit of he will deny even stuff that's public record. Like when the newspaper reported that he got arrested, he went on YouTube and said that I was never arrested, even though we showed the warrant, we showed the bail bond document that Kent signed on the Apologia video, and he still he did a new video recently. He still denies that he ever got arrested, and he says, "Oh, I was there in court for my driver's license or my license plate." It's like, no, Kent, you were there because you had a domestic abuse trial. You weren't there just to like renew your driver's license.
I think he's just so used to lying that it's become a way of life for him.
Yeah, he's like a compulsive liar. And a narcissist and a bunch of other things, a compulsive liar and I forget the other word. It's like somebody who lies.
Pathological liar?
Yeah, pathological. Lies about things that don't even really matter. Like things, why would you lie about that? And he exaggerates things a lot.
Yeah, like I would not get along with him. Like I have trust issues after a lot of the shit that I've been through, and like honesty, like if you will lie to me about a small thing, then it will break my trust and I will not be able to trust you about anything, because like it is so like important. It's like I don't care if you are an asshole. I don't care, like as long as you're honest. It's like, does this dress make me look fat? Don't tell me no if it does make me look fat, because I would rather an ugly truth than a beautiful lie. Like I need honesty. Like I compulsively need honesty, or I just like it fucks me up.
Yeah, like if I have food in my teeth, I would rather somebody tell me than not tell me because they want to be nice, because it's nicer to not let the person embarrass themselves, right? And walk around like that.
One thing that drives me nuts is there's someone that whenever I get my hair cut and I ask, what do you think? They say, well, do you like it? If you like it, I like it. It's like, all you've told me is I'm not going to answer you. Well, I just like whatever you like. No, you don't. You're just not willing to commit to anything.
Yeah, I think that getting to meet a lot of people from different countries doing YouTube, I think I've noticed that when it comes to people from America, we're a lot more likely to sort of tell
lies in order to avoid awkward situations and to try and be polite, whereas people from like Europe and Australia, they're very direct. At least this has been my experience with some of my friends meeting these people, and it's caused problems with communication sometimes where there's those differences in how I think we're raised or how our cultures are. But
The Japanese culture is even more so than we are. There, it is considered polite to lie. You know, if your host serves you something you think it's the worst thing you've ever tasted, you don't say that. You say that it was delicious and thank you very much, because that's a cultural thing. You just do not tell a host that you didn't like the food.
yeah, it's interesting.
One
But
of the things that I found the most interesting in the video that you did with Paulogia was I don't remember the man's name, but there was a man on with you that had been with Kent and said that his daughter reported to him after they moved out and had left that she used to give Kent massages. What
yeah,
was that man's name?
it's Mark Stoney.
Okay. And what was his position with Kent's organization?
Well, he lived at DAL and he was not, I don't think he was on the board of directors, but he was fairly close with Kent and Ernie Land. And yeah, he was just one of the volunteers that worked there.
Okay. How many people live on that compound? Do you know?
Well, it fluctuates because it's always changing. People are always coming and going, either getting kicked out or leaving, either just because they want to and they've had a positive experience there, or because they see how Kent is and then they don't want their family to be there. But if I had to guess, I would say it's usually between 30 to 45 people at any given time. There's about I think 10 cabins there, but they also have hookups for mobile homes. So there's like usually a group of a couple families staying there at any time, but I couldn't say for sure.
Okay. Okay. So it's not like I was beginning to wonder if maybe he was starting to become a mini Branch Davidians, you know, and starting his own cult there. I don't know.
Personally, I don't really think that it's a cult. I think that Kent has elements of acting like a cult leader, but people are free to come and go there. And
that's good.
With cults, usually they're very tight-lipped about what goes on there, but there's been so many people who have reported what has gone on at DAL. It's not really a secret anymore. So I think it's certainly not a place that I think people should go, but I don't know if calling it a cult is going too far, just personally.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Partly because I think almost all religions have some of the what's the word? Not symptoms, but characteristics of a cult.
Like the bite model? Yeah. Well,
I think even the most mainline Christian organizations have some elements of that.
True. That's true.
Ox says the church is a cult. What about weapons? Do you know, have there been allegations of weapons on the premises?
Yeah. Well, if you watch the documentary that McKinnon Mitchell did, at the first Dinosaur Adventureland in Pensacola, there were absolutely weapons there. Since Kent got arrested and got out, I think that he's not supposed to own weapons. But
correct. As a convicted felon, yeah, he's not allowed a weapon.
That doesn't mean that they haven't been on campus there, because when it's in such a small town, it's impossible to say that, that there's nobody that brings guns onto that property. It seems pretty obvious that some people do. But I couldn't say for sure either,
One thing I was extremely disappointed about, and I don't know if you saw this or not, but Yolanda Flowers did a short video with Kent Hovind. Do you know who she is?
I don't think so.
Okay. She was the Democratic candidate.
Oh, yeah, I did
for
see
the
that.
governor of Alabama.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the best we can do for a Democratic candidate. Yeah, I don't think the woman had any clue who Kent Hovind was and what he stood for.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be running for governor, you should at least be checking out who it is you're associating with. I mean, Trump has the same problem. You know, his dinner with Kanye West, and I don't remember the other guy's name, the white supremacist.
Nick Fuentes and
Yeah.
Milo Yiannopoulos, which Milo Yiannopoulos got like, you know, poo-pooed off the internet after he made some like pro-pedo comments by saying that there's nothing wrong with, you know, a 13-year-old boy having a relationship with an older man, you know, to teach them like the way of things, and that he had a similar relationship as a child with like an elder priest or something like that.
Yeah. Basically, he
so-
said that when he was, I think, in Catholic school, that something had happened between him and an elder priest. But I don't know if he was supposed to be joking, but he said basically that he courted the priest, like it wasn't the other way around, which is just ridiculous, obviously. And it also got,
and even
also
if it's
turned out
true,
about,
as the
Milo-
adult, it's the priest's responsibility to say, no, this isn't right. I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that if it turned up that Milo's password on his computer was something related to the Night of the Long Knives and the crystal knot, when Nazi Germany, when they broke all the windows of Jewish store owners, his passwords and usernames on his computer was something like that was obviously very racist. But I saw that video. I'm surprised why Kent Hovind would want to promote a Democrat at all when he's a big Trump fan. But also, CSE is a 501c3 organization, which is not supposed to promote political party one way or the other. But he made that video, nothing happened.
Actually, you know, he said that any political candidate was welcome. And by doing that, he does make it okay, because he opened up the platform to any political candidate. And he said that she was the only one that responded. And that's the only reason she was the only one on, is because she was the only one that was responded. And my thought was because she was the only one dumb enough to not look up who he was and actually go on with him.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what's the other guy that like, he literally just had a sermon not that long ago where like he was calling Democrats like demons and saying that, you know, you can't vote for a Democrat. And then like they're basically looking into him about his 501c because a bunch of people reported like the sermon. Like he's really like big online, but I cannot remember his name to save my life.
I don't remember his name either, but you know, Trump
He even did a book burning. Like he like
Greg
live-streamed a
Locke?
book burning.
Yeah.
Greg
That
Locke?
might be it. That might be it.
Because Greg Locke has done book burnings.
Yeah, he did that, and like he had a book burning, and like I think he got tased at one point, like trying to pull the sovereign citizen thing, at like a border crossing or something. But don't quote me on that one. I just thought I saw that video. But no, he had given a sermon about how Democrats were like demons and like pedos and stuff, and then like he gave another sermon that, oh yeah, like the government, you know, the IRS, like they want to take my 501c. Well, I'm gonna forfeit it so they can't say shit to me. Blah blah.
Yeah,
blah.
that was Greg Locke, and he did. He reorganized his church. His church is no longer a 501c3.
He also said that there's no such thing as autism, and like autistic people are just demonically possessed. So fuck him. You know.
Yeah.
My child is not demonically possessed.
He
like,
also accused 6 members of his church of witchcraft.
Yeah, being witches. And I'm like, I'm guessing he tried to bed them and they rejected him, and he was worried he was going to get back to his wife. And so that's why he started, you know, that whole thing.
One was a couple. And the reason that he accused them of witchcraft was because they were either on the board or they were high up in the organization of his church, and they disagreed with him on a point, and he needed to get rid of them.
But I guarantee at least one of those witches, in my opinion, like he tried to hook up with them, and they rebuffed him, and
Mm.
because that seems like a very Greg Locke thing, you know. It's like, I don't care about the fidelity of my marriage. Like, I'm interested in this person, they're not interested in me. Oh, they must be a witch. Like, let's get them out of the congregation before my wife finds out.
Yeah. Yeah. These people are just so stuck on themselves. And that's one of the things I find so frustrating about Matt Powell. You know, he is so convinced that he is right about everything that he doesn't need to listen when other people tell him, hey, you missed something here.
Yeah. Did you see the sermon he gave about the drag queen storytime hour thing?
You want to hear an interesting story about that? I downloaded that sermon and responded to it.
Oh, really?
And I bleeped out anything that he said that that, you know, is not YouTube acceptable. I covered pictures that he showed that were pictures of trans people before they transitioned. So I heavily redacted a lot of what he had there. But in order to get that video, in order to use that video, I had to download it first. So I streamed it onto my channel in a private setting so that nobody else could see it. And I got a copy, I got a policy violation warning for having that in my YouTube videos, even though it was private and nobody saw it. I got a guidelines warning.
That's like the shit that happened to Jessie Gender. Like, she basically did a video talking about Matt Walsh and like debunking his whole "what is a woman" thing, and about how he does anti-trans like hate speech essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And she got struck by YouTube for it, even though the video where he's making these claims is still up on YouTube.
That's crazy.
She got community struck for it, for like the inappropriate conduct or whatever, when, you know, everything that she used was from his video that is still on YouTube. It's kind of gross.
Yeah. Yeah. Frank Turek made a video that on abortion that was graphic, and it was gross, and it was completely inappropriate. And he put it up with this big disclaimer: this is going to get banned by YouTube. This is going to get taken down. So when he put that up, I copied it immediately as soon as he released it so that I could respond to it. And mine is heavily redacted. And everywhere he's got gross pictures, I have cute animals on top of it.
You know, I was worried about the same thing when I responded to that Matt Powell video, but it didn't happen to me. I guess I got lucky. But yeah, I was worried about the same thing happening to me. And it's ironic, you know, that he uploaded that video to a different site called Odyssey on YouTube because he knew how bad what he was saying was.
Yeah, it violated YouTube policy. Yep.
And so to respond to that, you know, you have to take the risk on your own channel, which may have been intentional by him. I know he's done things like that before, like putting music in his videos that's going to get flagged if you try to respond to it, stuff like that. You know, it just shows he doesn't really want, he just wants to put his propaganda out for the people who already believe it. He doesn't really want to have a reply or an open discussion.
He invited me to have a debate with him on science. And I told him that science is not my field, and it's not his field either. And I think it's kind of silly for two people who are not in the science field to debate science. However, I would be happy to come on and debate him on theology. And I never heard from him again. Yeah,
they don't want to do that. I've tried to set up a debate with him like 3 times, and he always refused. He said he didn't like my YouTube avatar. That was his response the first time. This one. Oh wait, the one I have on my channel that's like a cross and a gun mixed together. He said it was.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see what's problem with it. I mean, a cross is a torture symbol and a gun
Right,
is a,
right.
it's not much different.
And honestly, it is very fitting for the current like conservative Christian, GOP, considering they have their own like brand of republicanity where Jesus was not a brown-skinned socialist that gave out healthcare and food to those in need and wanted to basically overturn tables of the money changers and everything. No, none of that. He is a staunch like anarcho-capitalist with an AK on his hip. Like that is the Jesus that these people worship. And some of them have supplanted that Jesus with Trump. Did you see the golden statue they made of him?
Oh yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, what happened to no false idols?
Yep.
And your
Yep.
golden calves? Like, what the fuck? I knew they had kind of gone off the rails, like, Ozzy Osbourne, Crazy Train, like off the rails. But I did not know that they had gone that far off the rails until I saw that, because it's like, okay, they worship, but there was actually a book that came out that is basically claiming that Trump is like the second coming, that he's a new Messiah. And I'm like,
I've even heard
brain rot.
I've even heard
this?
some people try to correlate the trumpet that's supposed to be blown when Jesus returns with the word Trump, like, because trumpet, Trump, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, it's really stupid. But yeah, this is the icon, and I guess it's been misinterpreted by a couple of people, but it was really just supposed to not be a reference to anybody who's a Christian. It's more about Christians like Kent Hovind, people who weaponize religion in order to harm people in different ways, physically, emotionally, monetarily, like you said, or spiritually, manipulating people based on their faith. And like you said, I mean, even though I'm added like a weapon to it, it's already a torture symbol, the cross on its own. It's already a violent image. So I find it kind of funny when Christians get offended because I think Matt Powell said that it was supposed to be aiming at God, which I was like, no, that's not what it means.
Yeah, that's just weird. I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I mean, if you just look at, just like the evolution of man and the evolution of like spiritual religious beliefs, like there's a path there where, when we're back like early hunter-gatherer, you see cause and effect. I stab the deer dies. I stab this rival dies, like cause effect. But things like weather, disease, aging, natural disasters, like they see the effect, so they think, oh, something bigger must be the cause. So like that's your more like naturalistic, like more like the Native Americans, Aboriginal types, where it's more like spiritual, but like nature spirity type. And then, that eventually evolves into the polytheism of like the Egyptians, the Norse pagans, the Greeks, and then eventually to monotheism. Like you can see like correlation, and everything. Like there's a path there where it's a logical like step going on. And so like that's where religion and spiritual beliefs just kind of evolved along with us, But the church itself as an institution has always been an institution of population control and power. I mean, and what better business model than to literally put the fear of God into people and convince them that they have something wrong with them, sin, and that, they will essentially burn for eternity. Like if they are not good, little like congregants. It's like, give us your money for, paying your tithes and do what we say. And, they had a carrot and a stick approach. Like the stick is obviously the damnation, but the carrot is, okay, I know you're eating like carrot or cabbage soup, and your feudal lord really mistreats you and might be sexually assaulting your wife and your daughters, like, and there's nothing you can do about it. Your life sucks. But if you give us what little money you have and you come to church and you get on your knees and you do what we say, then your immortal soul, instead of going to hell, where it would go if you didn't do these things, you get paradise. And all of this pain and suffering doesn't matter in the grand scheme of eternity. And you get, fucking paradise forever. And it's like, and the human brain just cannot comprehend eternity. Like, just
Well,
we're not meant to.
they deal in claims that are not falsifiable. They say
Right.
that you're damned based on something that happened before you were born, which you can't prove or disprove. And they say that they know what's going to happen to you after you die, which you also, can't disprove if you accept their authority. So they're, like you say, it's a carrot and a stick. They're controlling people during their lives. And I think the reason that religion has always been around, so to speak, is because people are afraid of dying.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Fear of mortality is that
all
definitely.
the other stuff with the robes and the mythology and the holy fiction, I think it's all just window dressing. But I think that fear is the core of it. And I think that was a lot more powerful back when people's lifespan average was about 30 years old. People saw so many people around them dying. And they had a lot more superstition back then. So those institutions were a lot more powerful versus today, where they still hold a lot of power, like especially like the Mormon church in America. But more and more people are not convinced in the first place. Like, that's how I always felt, that I was pretty much always an atheist. It just hardened that position. But when I was pretty young is when I pretty much was in Sunday school, and I remember they told us about Noah's Ark, and I was just like, yeah, there's no way they could fit this many animals on a boat.
Yeah, no. I mean, and like that, another thing, for the longest time, they did not want the Holy Scriptures to be in circulation for the common man to read them. So you couldn't even read the text yourself. You had to rely on, what the person preaching the sermon was telling you. Because again, they wanted to keep them ignorant and in line. And I think that the reason why, like, the nuns, the no religious affiliation is growing so much, and in tandem, the progressiveness of the younger generation, I think, is in part due to the information at our fingertips. Like, we have the internet now, and we can go and you hear a propaganda point of, oh, well, if we get socialized healthcare here, we're going to have FEMA death camps and death panels and everything. And then you can, and they have them in Canada. And it's like, I can like dial up one of my Canadian friends in Discord. Hey, you guys got death panels? Nah, you just go to the doctor when you need it and you don't go bankrupt. Really? We're getting shafted. And
yeah.
So we can see that, like, we can see that other places have it better, or they're doing it better, or they're even doing something different. And we can actually get that information, and we can talk to people. And so, like, just like, things changed when, people became literate, when you went from being an illiterate, a group of people to a literate one, you see more advances in society and just becoming better people overall, more progressive, more tolerant, more accepting of, different groups, because we're commingling more as well. It's really hard to be a bigot when your next door neighbor is some marginalized group, and oh, well, it's just Joe, or it's just Sue or Sally. Like, these people, and that's why you see these bigoted, people that it's like, oh, like anti-gay politicians that then their child comes out as gay or lesbian, and all of a sudden they kind of backpedal because it's like, oh, they're not these monsters. This is my child. And now those are the good parents, the ones that actually do like reevaluate. The bad ones are, the ones that don't deserve to be parents. And I stand by that. If you do not accept your child, as they are, you do not deserve to be a parent, like, full stop. I really don't care. Like, love your child, accept them, like there are actions they can do that you can not accept or not tolerate. And, no matter what, I will always love my child. Like, even if I was Jeffrey Dahmer's mom, I would still love my child. I would turn his ass in because I need to do what is right for, the greatest number of people. I'm, an egalitarian. I believe in more collectivism, and I'm not going to allow a serial killer to continue to run along the streets, but I'm still going to love my child, like nothing will change that. I
And
don't
I would
care.
never throw my child into a furnace for eternity, no matter what they did.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you don't hurt the people that you claim to love if you're not a psychopath. That's something that killers do, is that they claim that they love somebody and then they hurt them. Well, if God loves his creation so much, he wouldn't throw them into hell. But it's an interesting point that you made, talking about like the internet and stuff, because another thing that we got from that is learning about so many other different religions that are all over the world. And when you learn that there are so many other faiths, it makes you think, well, what are the chances that I picked out the specific right one, or that my parents picked out the right one and I went along with their faith just because I saw them as authority figures and they raised me and took me to
Instead of it
church.
being like genetic lottery of you were born into a country that is predominantly X religion, so that's likely what you ended up as.
Right. And, I love the argument of, religious people who can't seem to understand what atheism is or say it's a religion, and telling them, well, you're an atheist to all these other faiths. It's just atheists say they have one more religion they don't think is true, which is yours.
One thing I would love to ask Kent Hovind, if I ever met him, is, he and Matt both like to make fun of the surfing monkeys. They say, this article says that monkeys surf from Africa to South America, and that's just not possible. Ha, 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 ha. If the flood happened, how did the kangaroos and the koala bears and the
Platypus?
platypus all get to Australia?
Well, I could answer
Now,
that for you.
Answers in Genesis' response to that is they floated there on logs. Basically, they surfed there. And yet he makes fun of that exact same answer.
Well,
Now,
that's not the answer Ken Hovind would give.
What answer would he give?
Well, he would say that somehow after the flood, the water levels on the earth were lower. I'm not sure how, something to do with the polar ice caps. And that there would be land bridges that these kangaroos could walk on to Australia from Turkey or the Middle East.
Another unfalsifiable thing.
Yeah. And I made an argument similar to that. I did a video about the surfing monkeys. One of the things I said was that this is a paper that's giving a hypothesis. So this is something that the people who publish this are claiming might be true. That doesn't mean that it's agreed upon science, and we're not teaching it in public schools. It's just something that was in a Nat Geo article and that was in a scientific journal. But, if we're going to say it's true, it's still way less ridiculous than Noah's flood.
Well, the other thing that is far less ridiculous is Powell and Hovind like to make it out that these monkeys built rafts and decided to surf over to South America. Whereas if you read the article, there was a great storm and these animals were thrown onto floating debris during a storm. And then the floating debris got caught up in currents, and that's how they ended up in South America. It wasn't some decision on the part of the monkeys. It was they got thrown there during a storm.
Like how you'll see sometimes fish and frogs will rain from the sky because of a water spout, like a tornado, sucks them up, and they drop like maybe even hundreds of miles away.
Yeah. And one of the things that the paper talks about is log mats, which Kent says there would have been during the flood. And if these are big entangled groups of trees that are together that came from this jungle environment, there could be a lot of fruit and vegetable plants or, stuff that would be on those trees, food that would be on these rafts, and maybe enough for these monkeys to survive. Again, this is not something that is accepted as true. This is just a hypothesis, but they present it with a goofy name, saying that this is what anybody who thinks evolution is true, they must also believe this, which is just not true.
Yeah, just like
but all Christians have to believe the flood, though. That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, like there was also like the aquatic ape theory a while back. It's like just because people postulate that this could be something, that doesn't mean that that's like the general consensus. But going back to the point, sorry, just that we were talking about before, as far as like being like a psychopath and not caring about people. I honestly, and this, might be an unpopular opinion, I do believe that, organized religion does kind of breed that in people, especially, in the Abrahamic religions, mostly Islam and Christianity, but where you almost like tend to like lump people and dehumanize them. And the reason I say this is I had a conversation with a Christian woman, and I asked her basically, we were talking about like why I didn't believe. And I was like, oh, well, it was the idea of heaven for me is why I don't believe. Because again, I'd rather an ugly truth than a beautiful lie. And if I were in heaven and my child was not, I could not be in paradise. So I'd either have to have no memory of my life, which then what was the point of living it? Or I would have to have a fake version of my child there, which I would not want that. I don't want a beautiful lie. And they're like, well, if my child was in hell, it wouldn't bother me because they did something to put themselves there. And that right there, the fact that a mother could say that about their own child, I really do believe that, religion is toxic. At least, that,
The
at least the way
Calvinists,
it is now.
the Calvinists are even worse because they take it one step further, which is that everyone who is saved was predestined to be saved.
So no
And
matter what you do, you're fucked.
yeah, because if you were chosen by God before the foundations of the earth for salvation, then at some point in your life, God will call you, and it will be an irresistible call, and you will have no choice but to turn to it. And I had a Calvinist on my show, and actually I take it back. I was on Atheist Edge's show, and he had a Calvinist on, and I asked him that question point blank: if you found out that your child was not chosen, your child is destined for hell because he was not chosen. And he said, yeah, I'd be fine with that as long as I know the reason.
That's barbaric to me.
It is, and I thought, I can't imagine if his child ever saw that. Imagine how his child must feel that that's how his dad feels about him.
The
Oh,
only
yeah, it's
thing
okay if you
worse-
get tortured as long as you tell me why you're torturing my kid. Yeah, go ahead.
I
I think
had a
the o-
discussion with
Sorry.
a Christian, and we were talking about me and another atheist, my friend Mark Reed. We're talking before the guy came on. I think we were discussing Abraham and Isaac, and how if you ask a Christian what they would do in that situation, and that we had somebody come on and we asked them that, what would you do in that situation if God told you, or if you heard a voice in your head that you assumed to be God, which just sounds like somebody with severe mental issues. What would you do in that situation? And they basically said that they would do it because God God let Job have new children after his children died, or he replaced them. And even though I'm thinking, like, I told him this, that if you have a child die and you have another child, that's not replacing the other one. That's not a thing. I mean, haven't you ever heard of a story where a kid has, they experience death for the first time because their pet dog dies, and they say, well, we'll get another dog. And they say, I don't want another dog. I want, Fluffy. I want him, because it's not the same thing. And we were pretty shocked that I feel like you kind of have to say that, right? You have to say that you would do what God says. But most, I think, people would not do that in that situation because that is, like you said, is barbaric and it's ridiculous.
No, like I would go a step further. Like, even like, and I've had people ask me this question, oh, well, if you could go back in time and change anything, would you? And my answer is no. Other than maybe like go to like a week ago and get the Powerball numbers, but like as far as changing anything in my life, even with everything that I went through, if the course of events didn't play out the way they did, I would not have my son. I might have a child, but it would not be him. And I would not, go back and change anything, before he was born. Like I said, maybe something after where it's like, oh, get in on a stock that right before it's going to take off, or get like the winning lottery numbers or something, where it would greatly improve my quality of life for the rest of my life,
And
but
his.
it would not fundamentally change, things that would lead me to not be, have him, because it was a fluke that I met his father. Like, I was in an abusive relationship, and I had gotten permission to go to a movie with a friend. And at the last, so I had to drive my husband to work and drop him off. And then I was supposed to go basically binge a bunch of movies with a friend that worked at a movie theater. And I had gotten permission to go out and do that. And my friend canceled last minute. And I was like, fuck, if I drive back home, I'm going to get in trouble for wasting the gas. So I got to find somewhere to sit. And I knew there was a video or a game store, like comic books, tabletop games, like Magic the Gathering and stuff, D&D. So I happened to just go into the store that I knew was there, because I was like, well, they're not going to mind me just sitting around, killing time, while my husband's at work. And I met someone there, and we got to talking, and then, started playing like some games with them. So I would go and drop my husband off on Fridays and spend the day at the game store. And that game store is actually where I met Michael, who is my son's father, my partner. And had, even my friend like not canceled that day, like I would not have met Michael. But come to find out, like, we technically met in passing like the year before I got married, when I went to a convention in Orlando, and I was dressed up as Leela from Futurama. And like, we actually walked past each other at that convention before I actually had gotten married. So it's just weird, but yeah, had I not joined that role-playing game that he was running, on Friday night, that had not been at that store at that day to meet that one person that was like, yeah, you should come back and hang out with us, and kind of encourage me to do it. And I pushed for it a little bit, because I had a lot of fun hanging out at the game store, because I never went out of the house. So, and that was kind of what was the first domino in me, like, kind of rebuilding my courage, and like kind of realizing that, no, the way I'm being treated is not right. It's not my fault. And I do need to leave. So like, it's weird how like just one small event can change your life so drastically. And I would not change any of it, because I mean, and non-existence is not a bad thing, like compared to like eternal damnation. Like, if I change something and my child didn't exist, he's not suffering, he doesn't exist. But I could not exist knowing that he did not exist. I could not change anything that would change it so that he was not here. And so any parent that would not only, just not like care about their child like suffering, like, I get queasy if he fucking skins up his knee. It's like, I can watch open heart surgery while eating spaghetti, no worries. Like, but I see the tiniest pin drop of blood on him, and like I get a little bit queasy, because I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm still able to triage it and everything. Like, once he was climbing on a chair and he bit through the tip of his tongue, and there was blood everywhere. Like, so my initial reaction was kind of panic, but like 10 seconds I was like, okay, it's like mouth that bleeds a lot. Let's clean up. It was a tiny little thing, but like, it was just so much blood. I was like, almost having a panic attack, like my heart's racing, like clammy, like cold sweat, but like, just like him, like anybody else, I got no issues. I can triage it, like no problem. Like, I wanted to go into the medical field. Doesn't bother me. But with him, it's like, and, I don't know, like, and when he was 2, I found out that like he's the only creature in existence that can smear shit on my face and not meet an immediate and violent end. Because he had a very bad like Shitsuvius eruption, and I was making dinner and he was down for a nap, and then I hear giggling, and I'm like, oh, he's up. Well, let me get these potatoes on, and I'll go. And then I heard a different giggle, and I'm like, all right, my mommy sense is tingling. I'm just gonna go check. it was a nightmare. And I go to pick him up and I'm like, oh my God, because I'm a germaphobe, so I don't do fecal matter. And like he just I'm like, oh God, I hate everything
Okay,
about
Kitty,
this.
I think we've had enough of that.
It was awful.
I have a
but
question.
I still love him unconditionally.
Okay. I have a question for you, Atheist Jr., and I know
Okay.
this is speculation. Matt Powell has several times been caught saying some of the dumbest stuff. You know, like when he claimed that pterodactyls were hunted by people in the Civil War. And when people show that he is quite obviously wrong, he deletes the videos and pretends like they never happened. Ken Hovind, on the other hand, when he says something stupid and is corrected about it, he just acts like that the correction was never there and what he said was absolutely right, and goes on as if, you know, I was right, I'm still right, you know. And I have to wonder, do you think he really believes that he's always right?
Well, okay, so I've been asked this question before, and the answer I usually give is when Ken Hovind says something, if he is talking about something that he believes, be it Noah's flood or 6-day creation or the age of the universe or the age of the earth, yeah, I think he really does believe that, because he is convinced that he's right about things and nobody's going to convince him otherwise. When it comes to him talking about what other people think or what other people believe, that's just him making fun of people. I think he knows that stuff isn't true. Like when he says people think they came from a rock, or that people think that the earth was compressed into the singularity at the Big Bang. He knows that that's not true. He knows that scientists don't believe that, because he knows that the cosmologists say that the earth formed many billions of years after the Big Bang happened. And yet he still says stuff like that, oh, well, you couldn't fit the ocean into a dot, and that you think that the Earth's oceans were compressed and were like the Earth and the planets were there at the start of the Big Bang. He knows that's not true. So that's my sort of rule of thumb, is that if he's talking about what other people believe, then I think he knows that that's a lie. But if you hear him say that he believes something or think it's true, yeah, he really does believe that stuff, no matter how ridiculous it might sound. He's convinced himself that he's right and everyone else is wrong.
Kind of like the politicians that know better, you know, or the pundits that will say, oh, CRT is being taught in schools, when really it's like, you know, a Harvard law class. And, you know, our school systems are not teaching Harvard law classes in K through 12. So it's like a deliberate misleading and straw manning even.
And even if it was, it's just like teaching them that like Harriet Tubman existed and stuff like that, you know? It's not anything like really bad. It's just like, hey, like slavery happened and like racism exists.
One of the things I find hilarious is all the believers that claim that it was Christians that got rid of slavery. And yes, the Quakers had a lot to do with it. But the Quakers are a very small part of Christianity. And the people that were pushing for it the hardest were the Baptists and the Methodists.
And they were using the Bible as justification for being anti-abolitionists.
And like the Quakers got a lot of shit for that too, for being abolitionists and for being more egalitarians. Like, I actually did a little bit of reading like on Quakerism, because like they seem like the most chill of the Christian groups. Like at least one sect of them. Apparently there's like 2 different sects. One is much more like fundamentalist than the other, but the more like liberal like sect of Quakers, like they you know, had more equal rights. Like, you know, some of their churches were some of the first to perform like church weddings for same-sex couples and to recognize them. They're much more like egalitarian and like progressive in, you know, their views on civil rights and such. So I was like, you know, if there had to be a flavor of Christianity that was popular, can we pick that one? You know, that it's very like, you know, it's much more laid back, not as proselytizing, and is, you know, more open to equal rights for people, you know, maybe.
One thing about Kent Hovind, just kind of insulting people, that was one of the factors in my deconversion. Was the church I was going to, the pastor frequently would make fun of people who weren't in church every Sunday. And, he said, oh, some people think they can worship God on the golf course. Ha, 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 ha. And I used to think, if I met somebody and I was trying to convince them to become a Christian and to come to church with me, I'd be embarrassed to bring them here.
Yeah.
Because the pastor's just going to make fun of them. And I have to wonder if Hovind has that effect on some of the people that come see him.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like maybe, but it's impossible to know for sure if people left because of that. It seems like that's part of the appeal for some people. Like, I've seen them make jokes to, and somebody who went there that was indigenous, and he asked her about like scalping people as a joke. And
gosh,
yeah, and Kent mentioned in another video that people in the comments were pissed off, and the person either didn't seem to care, or they were basically saying that to go along.
They were probably too shocked to come up with a decent response on the spot. Yeah. It's really hard to come up with a good response on the spot when somebody corners you with something that blatant.
I mean, there are definitely people that would be a feature, not a bug, but I do think that one of the reasons, and like, this is just, my take, your mileage may vary. The reason why you see so many people, like the rise of the nuns, the no religious affiliations, like, it's because like a lot of these churches are like really digging in their heels on the fundamentalism. And again, you have a more interconnected youth. There's not a person under 40, I think, that doesn't at least have one online friend, or some like online presence, even if it's small, and talking to people of other cultures, other faiths, other just beliefs in general, be they political or whatnot. And so like that kind of, it softens others, and it tends to humanize people, and by humanizing others, if you have a group that's saying, no, like these people are lesser, these people are evil, they're heathens, they're persona non grata, blah, blah, blah. Like, I honestly think that it's having a massive backfire effect. A majority of people support abortion access. A majority of people support, freedom of religion. A majority of people support same-sex marriage. A majority of people support all of these different things. And when you have churches that are like, no, these things are bad, they're evil, it's like, yeah, I don't agree. It's like, and if you don't agree with what they're saying, then you're not going to be taken in by everything. It's the people that agree, that have that bigotry, that have that like hatred, or that want to control others and force women back into the trad wife role and remove them from the workforce, a la Handmaid's Tale, early in the Handmaid's Tale, before it went full Gilead, when they just, revoked women's credit cards and told them they weren't allowed to work anymore. There are people that like actually want that. So it's a feature for them, but for like normal people that don't think that way, that think that, hey, let's be egalitarian, like equal rights for everyone, let's treat people well, like, let's do better than those that came before us, it's not an appealing message. At least that's my take.
One final question before we go, and that is, in your opinion, Atheist Jr., where do you see Hovind and Powell going from here? Do you think that they are going to be a thorn in the side?
Oh, I think we lost her.
We'll give it a sec. She does have storms going on in her neck of the woods.
Well, I think I can basically infer the rest of the question, and what I think when it comes to the future of Kent and Matt, Kent is getting up there in years, and he's also shown signs of having mini strokes lately. TIA is what it's called, and which is obviously not good. So I think he'll probably live a long time. Unfortunately, Kent just strikes me as the type of person who would and eventually it'll just be, I think, either Matt Powell will take over at DAL, or that'll just be the end of it when Kent Hovind dies, which to me makes more sense. I think that I can't imagine Kent leaving DAL to Matt for him to take over. It just seems like he's the type of person who says, once I die, that's the end of everything, basically. That's the way I see it.
Very narcissistic,
but
it seems.
I didn't get to hear the end of the question.
I was wondering if I got the end of the question in before I started. The way I saw it, I got the very end of the question in, and then I went kablooey. But basically, where do you see this going from here?
Yeah, the last word I heard was thorn. Thorn in the side. Yeah, pretty much. I think that Kent is going to keep doing the same thing he's been doing, and so is Matt. Yeah, I mean, Kent had a stroke doing a Whacking Atheist video about me. During the video, he had like a mini stroke, which was really bizarre to watch. And I don't think he'll die on camera, on stream, but he and Matt are just going to keep saying the same things. I mean, Kent has always been repeating the same things. So I pretty much just see it going that way. And then I think when he dies, that's the end of it, because he, like I said, is the type of person that it dies with him, basically.
Burn Vortex says Kitty's link doesn't work. There's a link for Kitty's channel in the description, or else it's a link to your Cash App, one or the other. I took it from Twitter, but you haven't been making any content lately anyway.
No, I honestly haven't. So it's not that big of a deal. Although I am planning on doing a video. I saw an Abby Shapiro video that it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I'm actually planning on doing something about that, because like she talks about things that like I have like personal experience with, and it rubbed me the wrong way. So I will be doing that, and I'll let everyone know when that eventually comes out, but it's not going to be for a little bit.
Okay, with that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you so much for joining me, Kitty and Atheist Jr. It's been a pleasure having you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was glad to be here, and it was nice to meet you.
Likewise.
And before we go, Atheist Jr., is there anything that you would like to shill for? What do you have coming up on your channel?
Oh, well, I've been planning on doing one of my Whacking Atheist streams, because those are pretty much my most popular videos. About Kent Hovind did one on Professor Dave, but it's been a 5-part series. So I think now that the last video has come out in that series, I'm going to do my stream soon. I'm not sure which day, but it'll be pretty soon. Kitty, if it makes you feel better, I haven't come out with any videos in a little while either. I sort of fell behind, the Thanksgiving holiday and all that stuff, but I'm ready to get back into it, So that'll probably be the next video I do. Yeah, and other than that, I've been posting some of my artwork on my community tab. Like, I've gotten into oil painting recently, and I've been posting some of those, which the reception has been really interesting, and a lot of good feedback. But yeah, the Apologia video, I don't know if you've seen both of them or just the new one, but the new one just passed 100,000 views, which is really exciting.
Wow.
So I'm glad to see people are watching that, because it's got some good information on there. And a lot of people contributed to that video. So I'm glad to see it's succeeding.
Very good.
That's pretty much it, though.
Okay. Kitty, is there anything that you wanted to show for?
Honestly, I don't really have anything going on right now. Like I said, things have just been really hectic with me being the chauffeur. And I've just been really tired. And with the holidays coming up, I've got a bunch of sewing stuff I've got to do for gifts for everybody. So really, I'm going to try to make time to do that Abby Shapiro video soon. But other than that, you know, it'll actually be like my first, like, well, not my first edited video. Like mostly I just like appear on live streams, and like I do have a sewing video that I, you know, did of how I made masks a while back. But like an actual like video response, like in the GG style, because like it was something. I'll send you the link to the video in question, and once you watch it, GG, you'll know exactly why I have things to say.
Okay. Very good. That sounds good.
I do have a Patreon. I'll say that. It's just
Okay.
patreon.com/Atheist Jr.
Okay, very good. So anyone who wants to support Atheist Jr can find him there. And there is a link to Atheist Jr's channel in the description. And from there, you can find his Patreon as well as his videos.
I mean, good on you, like doing the research, looking into these people, because I get brain melty. Just like if I have to listen to them, like another one like that, I just brain melty would be the Ray Comfort, you know, videos that I've seen.
I know what you mean.
It's hard. Like I feel like I lose IQ points, so hopefully you have plenty to spare.
I hope
if
so.
you're going to continue this. But I do wish you well in that. And
Thank you.
And coming up this week, I have a video on something just slightly different, but not all that much, because what happened was it was Hemet Meta that first posted this and brought this to my attention, even though this is an event that is happening just 1 hour from where I live in Tuscumbia, Alabama. There's a group that wanted to have a Yule festival, and they applied for a festival permit, which they got. And there was a large group of Christians that came to the city hall to protest City Hall permitting a group to have a Yule festival. And it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious.
There are no words. Like most of the Christian traditions come from Yule, pagan, you know, Yule traditions. Like the stupid, it hurts.
Peyton Dooley says he was a graduate from Ray Comfort's Ambassadors Academy, and he used to be an open air preacher.
I'm sorry.
I so wish I could run into him. I would love to meet him on the street, because I would love to get his reaction to my response to his question, how many lies have you told? Okay.
You chew him up and spit him out.
Honestly.
Oh, yeah.
There's no question about it. Because my response to that question is, that is a dishonest question, because it calls for a lie for an answer. There is no way a person can truthfully answer that question the way it was asked.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a good point. It's a loaded question.
Right. Okay, with that, we are finished for the night. I do not have a specific guest lined up for next week, but I will do something. I'm thinking I'd really like to have Purple on to talk about Yule, especially after doing that video. So I need to talk to Purple and find out if Purple is available and see about that, and take it from there. So everyone, have a great week. Thank you to my guests. Thank you to everyone in the chat, and live your life.